I'm hitting the go live button, and then we'll get going, I guess.
All right.
Ugh. All right. Do this. Let me tweet it. Let me do some retweeting stuff. There we go. Cool. All right. Good to go.
Old school Paul, new school Justin. Man, y'all still going to school though. Sit down, listen up. Father, son, y'all think it's just another one. Fade the beta, they be grading players, all it's done is made the piper pay me, and they've been grinding lately. Up late, hit the waivers, don't hate the player, hate me. It's just a Game Boy, never gifted one on Christmas. Instead I asked for ships to hit everything off my wish list. Check the litmus, do y'all really not get this? Hit this triangular shaped button, I don't want you to miss this. But I guess that's really none of my business. Me risky free cruiser, Colin Justin just listening. Yards after contact and catch, that's a lot of distance. The kind of info make me wanna blow opponents' kisses. But I gotta be clear, there was one key difference. Relationship is deep in this vein of ellipses. Like how Justin agreed to washing all the dishes. I'm just grateful Paul turned the miss into the misses. Father, son, pie, get down on the get down. If you don't get it now, then get out. Father, son, pie, sit down and get rich now. If you're not feeling it now, then get out.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Father-Son Fantasy Football Podcast. My name is Paul.
My name is Justin, and I mentioned this year our redraft content is going to top the past 2 years. We're going above and beyond. You know, we got Marcas Grant from NFL.com. What's going on, Marcus?
What's up, Marcus?
What's going on, guys? I appreciate you having me on.
Yeah, you know, we're a star-studded cast. We're bringing in the fire. You can follow my dad on Twitter at PaulFSFF. My Twitter is at JustinFSFF. I gotta change that. I can't keep saying this FSFF thing. It's a lot of tongue twisterness going on.
That's a mouthful, man.
I'm getting used to it, but still, my mouth, my jaw, it's not a good situation. And Marcus Twitter at MarcusG. Follow him there. Star-studded lineup. Last redraft pod, we had JJ Zacharyson at late round QB from Number Fire and FanDuel. This time we get Marcus from NFL.
We're getting a lot of good guests on. This is great for us.
It is great. Studs. We're getting studs on. And there's a stud coming into the league this year in Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan Taylor, not the first running back off the board, not the second, but the third running back off the board. And I love him as a prospect profile. This guy lit it up at the combine running a 4.39 somehow at 228 pounds, a 99th percentile speed score. Talk about dynasty. I like him as a dynasty prospect. We're talking redraft here. And he's currently going in the, what round do I have? Fourth round? Trying to open my notes right here.
Yeah, he's going early
in the fourth round. He's probably going to
come
creeping up right now. It is June, so we'll come August time. He's going to be probably going into the late third, early fourth round. But Marcus, what are your thoughts on Jonathan Taylor? How do you think it's going to work out with Marlon Mack there? We know what Marlon Mack is. He's underrated. I think he's pretty good. But Jonathan Taylor.
Yeah, here's the thing. I love Jonathan Taylor before the draft. He was my number one running back in this past draft class. I know folks like DeAndre Swift, which I had no beef with that. But just watching Taylor at Wisconsin, I loved what he did. I loved, the way he ran. I think I described the Colts drafting him as, it's like putting a hat on a hat, right? Except one of the hats was one of the most productive running backs in college football history. I think, though, what frustrates me about this situation has nothing to do with Taylor and everything to do with Marlon Mack. Because last year, I was big on Mack. I had him as a sleeper. He was a guy I tried to draft in the third or fourth rounds in a lot of places. And I felt like the returns were okay. I don't think it was totally his fault. I mean, their wide receiver core just was decimated. It made it hard to move the football overall. And so I think that sort of hurt him. He still had 1,000 yards. But just listening to all the conversations coming out of Indianapolis right now, right? That you've got that Frank Reich, you've got the offensive coordinator talking about how they plan to use both of these guys. That it's going to be sort of a 1-2 punch. That you've got Frank Reich coming back and saying we respect a lot of what Marlon Mack can do, and we want to still get him on the field. And then maybe the biggest fly in the ointment right now in Indianapolis is Nyheim Hines, because they have said, Frank Reich said a few weeks ago, he can envision a game where Hines has 10 or more catches. Like, that's possible this year. You've got Phillip Rivers there, who was notorious for throwing to his running backs. Look at what Austin Eckler did last season, last couple of seasons. Look at what Danny Woodhead did with the Chargers in San Diego before that. So I think dynasty wise, like I love Taylor because Mac's not going to be there forever. But this year, I want to be optimistic because, like I said, I love him and I love his goal line potential. I just fear that all three of these guys are sort of going to eat off of each other's plates and leave us all a little bit frustrated when it's all said and done.
Yeah, the Nyheim Hines thing is definitely a thing among Twitter. People are saying, it's going to cap Jonathan Taylor's upside. Last season, towards the end of the stretch, in weeks 13 to 16, they didn't really have a running back. I think Marlon Mack went down, and they didn't really give Nyheim Hines a lot of work. He saw 2 targets, 5 targets, 2 targets, and 1 target. People keep saying that Nyheim Hines is going to eat into the receiving volume. I think you can probably factor in like 5 to 10% of the snap share and whatnot a game for Nyheim Hines to take some away. But Jonathan Taylor, people I think are a little discrediting his receiving ability. Granted, he's not a prolific receiver coming out of college as DeAndre Swift was or anything like that. Marlon Mack, a good pass catcher as well, and I think that he's got to get a little bit more respect for that too. But it's almost night and day between Mack and Jonathan Taylor from a prospect profile. You look at Jonathan Taylor with the insane 99th percentile speed score, 6K rushing yards over 3 years of college. That's insane. No one's ever seen that before. They traded up to get him. Granted, it wasn't a big trade up, and they took Michael Pittman before, but they still traded up to make sure that they got their guy. In the war room, you saw Chris Ballard compare him to Captain America, which I don't think, you can't really go wrong with someone comparing a running back to Captain America. I mean, I'll take that every day. And I'm going to compare it to Nick Chubb's situation. People are comparing to Nick Chubb, and I think it's a decent correlation. They're both very, very good rushers. I think Jonathan Taylor is already in the top 5 in rushing ability in the NFL. You can give Derrick Henry, Nick Chubb the top 2. But Jonathan Taylor, one of the best inside rushers we've seen in some time, and now he gets Quentin Nelson. First 4 weeks of September, I'm not expecting a lot. I don't think you're going to see him do anything. You're probably going to stay like 50-50 with Marlon Mack here or there. But the difference between the two of them, I think Frank Reich's going to see it right away. It's Jonathan Taylor, a world-class prospect. Same thing with Nick Chubb. He had Carlos Hyde there in Cleveland 2 years ago and waited till week 8 to make that big jump. And next thing you know, Chubb took over and won people championships. I think you can see a similar thing here, and it's possible that Jonathan Taylor is a league winner for people if you draft him in the 4th round. However, that ADP is probably going to creep up. So we'll see with that. You like Jonathan Taylor coming in this year? It's tough. You got to bank on the upside.
I mean, I do. I agree with Marcus. I think he's great for dynasty, not for this year, but probably for next year. So look, the good news is he's going to be able to run behind one of the best offensive lines in the league, right? The coach is definitely offensive minded, but he wants to be a committee. I think he wants to run off and be efficient. Like the bad news is I think it's going to be a committee there in 2020. So listen, Marlon Mack is no slouch. He's not going anywhere. I mean, they are going to see the talent in Taylor, but what Marlon Mack has done, he's had back-to-back successful seasons on the ground with over 900 yards, 4.5 yards per carry. I mean, he's not going anywhere. Maybe in 2021 they'll transition into Taylor. For redraft purposes, I think Taylor will see his fair share of work, maybe 15, 20 touches a game. His hype is high right now, and I think it's going to get even higher and maybe a little out of control as we edge toward the season.
Yeah.
But he's a fantastic.
He's going as a
back.
408 right now, according to FF Calculator. That's probably going to creep up. But if you say you already have 2 running backs for your team and 1 wide receiver, I think he's a great RB3 for your team because he has the upside to be a league winner. Yeah,
no doubt. You know what I think is interesting, and I've mentioned this to a couple of people before, is that what happens is I feel like for those of us who do this, who spend all year on this, we all sort of we end up kind of all talking to each other, and I think it sort of affects a player's ADP. And then I think what ends up happening, both good and bad, is that when you get to, say July and August, and you get more casual people coming in and drafting, it sort of balances it out, right? So we may be, maybe over, like, look at a guy like Clyde Edwards-Helaire, right? Like, I feel like we are like over the moon about what this guy can do. Like, I've seen him go early 2nd round in a lot of drafts. When in Kansas City, they're still not completely out on Damian Williams. And so I feel like, while those of us who do this all the time are really excited about CEH, I think when you get the casual drafters in who maybe don't know quite as much or haven't studied it quite as much, like, I think that'll sort of even it out. And I think the same with Jonathan Taylor. While a lot of us are being very cautious about him, I think you'll get a lot of people who just like rush head on and draft him early. And so I think what ends up happening is by the time we get to mid-August, I feel like everybody's ADPs are about right because we've sort of counterbalanced each other.
Yeah, like you just said, we've done some dynasty startups and stuff, and there are people out there that love all the rookies. They'll
Rookie
go,
fever.
They'll jump
It's
and grab
in-
them rookies so early.
All of them.
It's crazy.
Rookie fever is intact right now, especially in June. Another like that discount not on the show sheet, but DeAndre Swift's going about a round and a half later, and he's in a similar situation with Jonathan Taylor, where you have Kerryon Johnson there. Except for the difference between Kerryon Johnson and Marlon Mack is Kerryon Johnson, unfortunately, hasn't really done anything. And I think it's easier for him to uptake Kerryon Johnson than it would be for Jonathan Taylor to uptake Marlon Mack. But DeAndre Swift, similar to my favorite running back, Miles Sanders. So, I can't not like DeAndre Swift.
Yeah.
The guy I was touting all offseason last year was Chris Godwin. I said he's better than Mike Evans. I still believe he's better than Mike Evans. I always will believe he's better than Mike Evans as a wide receiver. This year, the ADPs are way closer, though. You don't have to spend a third-round pick on Mike Evans, and you can get Chris Godwin in the third or sixth round. This year, they're both going in the second round, currently going as wide receiver 6 and 7. Godwin's going one pick ahead of Mike Evans. So, Marcus, who you got between these two guys and why?
No, it's Godwin all day.
Let's go.
Day.
That's the correct answer right there.
My fear with Mike Evans. Here's the thing. I'm scared about Mike Evans as a top 10 wide receiver, but like I'm also too chicken to actually drop him out beyond like the top 12 or 15 in my rankings, just because like I'm a chicken like that. What worries me about Evans is not having Jameis Winston, which I know sounds like a weird thing to say, but part of what made the Winston-Evans connection great is that Jameis, like, he throws what I like to call YOLO balls, right? Like, when things sort of break down, he just throws those YOLO balls, and chances are Mike Evans is going to go up and get him. I mean, Mike Evans, to me, I said Mike Evans should have won the Heisman Trophy over Johnny Manziel, because every time I watch Texas A&M, like, I'd see Manziel run around, and then when things broke down, he would just throw it up. And I'm like, this Evans kid is pretty good. Like, he seems to be saving a lot of these plays, and I think he did the same with Jameis. Having Tom Brady there, what we've seen out of Brady the last few years suggests that the deep arm strength and deep arm accuracy is not where it once was earlier in his career. I mean, that's no knock on him. He's going to be 43 years old in August. It happens. But Godwin is that guy who can sort of play everywhere, who can definitely play in the slot and run some of those intermediate routes, and is great after the catch. That's not something Mike Evans does. And the other part that worries me is with Gronk there, with O.J. Howard still there, with Cameron Brate still there even, those are guys that potentially take some of those end zone targets that Mike Evans would otherwise have gotten. So I see a drop-off coming for Evans that I don't see for Godwin. But like I said at the start of that, I'm too scared to actually move him way down in my rankings just for fear that, something does click and he ends up having a good season.
Yeah, Dad, who you got between these two guys?
I mean, you can't drop them down. These two guys are studs. I mean,
right.
I love the upside of Godwin. I'm going to go on Godwin also. So the Tampa Bay offense was built for fantasy production through the air, and they supported 2 top 10 wideouts with Jameis. They're going to do the same thing with Brady. Not much is going to change with Brady at the helm. I mean, both guys are still going to have a big year, I think. And Marcus brought up a good point with that they can use them 3 tight ends all they want. And they could steal all that goal line work. Absolutely. I mean, they're setting Brady up for success here with all the weapons he's got there. I mean, the secondary is still going to be bad, right? They didn't do anything to upgrade their secondary, so they're still going to be throwing the ball. I think Brady is a more accurate passer than Winston.
Well, you better. Come on.
I mean, Brady's the GOAT, right? I mean, Winston, they were behind in every game, and all his interceptions, a lot of that is, They had to play catch-up ball. I mean, he had to throw the ball up. I mean, a lot of that wasn't his fault, but it was, you know what I mean? So, I mean, we didn't see Brady throw the ball a lot, deep balls in New England. He never had to. They weren't built that way. They had all them. Edelman was quick, all them guys. But I still think that these two guys are still gonna succeed with Brady at the helm.
Yeah. I will say I do think the Bucs defense will be a little bit better this year, just because I felt like Jameis I'm not going to turn around and say that they're not going to be the 49ers, they're not going to be the Patriots or anything like that, but Jameis put them in bad situations a lot last year, so that if you don't have Brady doing that, maybe that sort of helps them in the long run.
Yeah.
And they might have a little running game this year too, which they haven't had really. They haven't had a running game in years. And now, granted, they were behind, so they couldn't really use the run. But even when their running backs got a chance, they couldn't do nothing. So they're going to be an interesting team this year, that's for sure.
Definitely. It's Chris Godwin for me. Well, like I said, Chris Godwin over Mike Evans. I get some backlash for that on Twitter. Like, no, Mike Evans. Like, yeah, Mike Evans is great. 1,000 yards every year. It's not easy to do. But the dude just jumps up, catches the ball, falls down. I mean, it's not like good for him. You're 6'4". You can catch the ball when Jameis Winston throws those YOLO balls to him. But,
YOLO balls. I like that. I like that analogy. YOLO balls.
Chris Godwin, slot man, ran 50.5% of his routes outside of the slot. You know how Brady loves the slot. Wes Welker, Julian Edelman, and now he gets the most athletic slot receiver he's ever had in his career. It's going to be the Randy Moss version in the slot. I'm calling it now. Chris Godwin's about to ascend.
Awesome. You're going to say he's Randy Moss? No one can be Randy
Moss. No, I didn't say. I said he's Randy Moss in the slot. No one can be Randy Moss. Chris Godwin. It's got God plus win equals GOAT. He meets the GOAT over here.
For me, it's between Randy Moss and
we're not talking all the time. Chris Godwin just broke out last year.
I just don't want to get carried away.
No, I'm not. It's going to be Tom Brady's miniature version of Randy Moss in the slot. He's I think he's a lock for top 8 wide receiver this year. Number 1 in YAC last year. Number 4 in yards per target. There's going to be a little drop in yards per target, obviously, but the efficiency is going to increase with Tom Brady coming in. Last season, he was 41st among all wide receivers in catchable target percentage and outside the top 40 in target quality, but managed to rank 3rd in contested catch rate. He's good at football. Tom Brady is not going to be having as many YOLO balls as Jameis Winston. And Mike Evans, I'm not hating Mike Evans. I just rather have Godwin. Yeah. Mike Evans' true catch rate last year is 82.7%. Godwin's was 91.5%. Big downfield wide receiver. People were like, yeah, Brady's arm strength kind of struggled. I mean, he's going to take fewer deep shots, but be more efficient on those deep shots. So I don't think Mike Evans gets as big as a bump people are saying, but he's not going to be as good as Chris Godwin's going to be in this offense. It's kind of built for him. Look what Bruce Arians did with Hines Ward and Reggie Wayne and all of that stuff. It's going to be Chris Godwin's season for sure. AJ Green, Dad, you like him a lot. You started with him, but AJ Green this year is coming back. He says he's healthy. He says he's motivated. Going as the wide receiver 26 in the 5th round. You think that's a fair price, and you taking him there?
I think if you take him there, it's a steal.
Steal?
I mean, look, okay. Ooh. Last year was a lost season.
You know this is 2020, not 2016, right?
I do realize that, but the poor guy's been hurt. It was a lost season. He missed the last 20 games with leg injuries, okay? Now he's 32 years old coming into the season. When healthy, he can average 1,200 yards a season, where he played 13 games. Unfortunately, there hasn't happened since 2016, 2017, right? He hasn't done really anything since then. So you say he said he's healthy, he's ready to go. So if he can stay healthy in 2020, I mean, he could potentially be playing with the best quarterback he's ever had, right, in the NFL.
Oh, you don't like the red rifle?
I mean, I mean, you bring in Joe Burrow now. The hype is on him too. Is he going to be able to perform? We'll see. So I think it's the best quarterback he's had, right? So I think he could resume his alpha role in this offense. It's a risk taking him, but that risk could pay off too. So where he's going in drafts, even in dynasty, no one's been picking him.
Why are you talking dynasty? We're talking redraft over here.
But I'm just saying, in dynasty, people are staying away from him. But if you want to win this season, he's a guy you want to get. Yeah. And redraft is 1 year. I'm getting AJ Green in every draft if I can.
Yeah,
I'll take the shot. I'll take the risk.
I also like AJ Green in the 5th round. Wide receiver 26.
Healthy,
he's got top 15 upside if he's healthy. Whenever he's played at least 13 games in the season, he's topped 1,000 yards or more. And now, like you mentioned, Joe Burrow's in town. He says he's healthy and he says he's good to go and he's working hard to get back. And he's 31 years old. He's getting up there. Marcus, are you buying into the AJ Green being back?
I keep trying to talk myself into AJ. So here's the thing. I will preface this by saying last year in an auction league, I got AJ Green, I think relatively cheap. I think it was like $8 or $10 bucks in an auction league. And so like I played that game where I held on to him pretty much all season because one, I was like, okay, I kept like, okay, I was like, all right, I'm committed. Okay, I'm going to miss 8 games with AJ Green. That's fine. I'm all in for that. And then it just kept dragging on and on. And so at some point I'm like, well, I'm pot committed now. Like I'm staying with this thing and I'm going to try to see this out. Obviously that didn't work out. So I will admit I'm maybe a little bit bitter, but I am trying to talk myself back into it. I think for me with AJ Green, it's a situation. It's more a situation of roster construction, right? Like if I start, and I've done this in multiple mock drafts, I've started wide receiver. If I do that, then I feel okay with AJ Green, in the 5th or 6th round, because I'm not necessarily counting on him to give me frontline production. Because I just worry about, the leg, the foot at this point in his career. If I'm not counting on him to be my number one wide receiver every single week, then I feel a lot better about AJ Green. If I were to start maybe with 2 running backs, and then I'm looking at wide receiver, I think I'm a little bit more hesitant. So it really just depends, I think, for me, on how I start my draft and what level of production I would need out of AJ Green in order for me to be successful week after week.
Yeah, definitely a risky pick. And if you do have the wide receivers already intact, he's worth that wide receiver 3 kind of upside play. As your wide receiver 1 or 2, it's a little bit more scary because you're not going to be guaranteed production.
So on that note, Marcus, do you like going wide receiver, or do you like running back, or do you let the draft dictate what you do?
I sort of do it. I mean, it kind of sort of depends where I land. I've noticed that when I am more in the back half of the first round, then I tend to go with wide receivers to start with. If I'm early, if I'm 1, 2, or 3, I'll probably go. I mean, I'm definitely starting a running back if I'm in the top 3 of a draft, and then whatever happens in the second round, I'll sort of do it based on what happens around me. But I've just noticed in a lot of mock drafts, if I am 6, 7 or later, I tend to have gone a lot of wide receivers, and a lot of times I've gone Devontae Adams first round. Like I've kind of been able to go Devontae Adams, Chris Godwin to start off in a lot of these mock drafts, which, man, if that could happen in real life, I'll be over the moon.
Right. Yeah. That's definitely a good wide receiver start right there.
Yeah, Devontae Adams has over 600 target upside this year with Aaron Rodgers not getting any help. I wouldn't be surprised if I see 200 targets from him this year. He's going to push Michael Thomas for that one, or we'll talk about that in another episode. You and I, this quarantine, we watched all the Marvel movies in order because you wanted to see
all of them.
Yeah, well, you're like, which ones do I got to watch before Endgame? I'm like, let me tell you, we'll just watch them all. What else are we going to do? Sit here and just, you got to do something. So I'm a big Marvel guy. I love my Avengers. We're talking Infinity War. And Marcus says you like superheroes as well.
I do.
Dad, we'll kick it off with you first, since I think you're a little newer into this. Who are your 3 favorite Avengers out of all of them?
Well, I like the Guardians of the Galaxy 1 and 2.
No, not that. I'm talking Avengers. I'm talking superheroes.
Oh,
1,
the
2, 3,
heroes.
not movies.
Oh, I thought you were talking movies.
No.
I like Captain America.
It's one. Who's 2? That's
Thor. I like Thor.
Okay, and who's number 3?
Probably the girl.
Which girl?
I don't know her name.
Black Widow?
No.
Scarlett Johansson.
The Black Widow.
That's everyone loves
Thank you,
Scarlett
Marcus.
Johansson.
Everybody likes Scarlett Johansson, right?
You can't hate Scarlett Johansson. I'll watch every movie with
Thor's probably my favorite.
Yeah, all right. He's overpowered as shit.
Oh,
but my favorite. I'm a big Rocket guy. I don't know what it is about Rocket. Something about Rocket. Maybe it's Bradley Cooper. I don't know. It's just Rocket. My favorite Avenger easily is Rocket. Then I have to go with Thor. You gotta love Thor and his just the humor he's got with that. And then number 3 for me is Spider-Man. I'm a big Spider-Man fan as well. Marcus, who are your top 3 Avengers?
Well, Spider-Man for me, just because he is my favorite superhero of all time. I always feel like he's the people's champ.
Yes.
So he's number 1. I'd probably go Black Panther 2, and then 3 is a tough call. I think I would probably go with maybe Star-Lord. Star-Lord, I think just he's sort of that right mix. Again, he's kind of like your everyman sort of guy. Plus he's got the best soundtrack, right? I mean, he's got his tapes. He's got the best soundtrack.
Easily, Guardians 1 is my favorite Avenger movie out of all of them. The soundtrack in both 1 and 2 is just, you can't compare it to like any other movie. It's just insane.
Now, The Rock is going to be is that going to be?
No,
an
that's
Avenger,
Black Adam. That's DC.
That's DC. That's DC. It should be interesting. That should be interesting now.
Yeah, my dad's
always good in any.
My dad's a big The Rock guy. Loves The Rock. Anything you and Dwayne Johnson could get married. Honestly,
I love The Rock and his little sidekick, his little.
Oh, see, you know what? Then let me make a recommendation. You should reach out to my pal and colleague Adam Rank. I get him on the show because not only is he a big DC comic book guy, but he loves The Rock. He will try to tell me with a straight face that San Andreas and Skyscraper are two of the greatest movies ever made. So you should get him on the show, and you can have a long conversation with him about The Rock.
That'd be awesome.
We'll have to get Adam Rank on the show. We're having the old Danger Zone duo. We're having James Coe come on this month also
Sweet.
for a second time.
Nice.
So we definitely got to get Adam Rank on too. And before we get off this Avengers topic, when we watched Spider-Man, the first one of the series, you're like, yeah, that wasn't that good. But you don't understand. He's the people's champ. He's your friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. He's not going to be overpowered as shit. You can't be overpowered if you're just a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
Right.
I was trying to get, it's the perspective. Spider-Man, I love it.
So here's my argument in favor of Spider-Man / Peter Parker, right? Is that like Superman literally was not one of us. He is an alien from another planet. He is not human, right?
Exactly.
Batman / Bruce Wayne, Iron Man / Tony Stark are sort of they're trust fund kids, right? Like they don't, whatever. Peter Parker, like he was picked on in high school. He was trying to make the girl next door like him. He started working his way through school, and his boss was a jerk. Like he had real, like everyday people problems. So I always sort of appreciated that about him.
You can relate to him more than you can to a Thor. You're not just going to be the god of thunder coming out of the air with a freaking hammer. But like a Spider-Man, you can kind of envision yourself. Okay, that's more realistic. Exactly.
You probably have some of those problems, or people have some of those problems.
Oh, man.
Exactly. It's not easy ranking those the top 3 Avengers because there's so many good ones. Later in drafts, there's a lot of good late-round wide receiver values that's hard to choose from. You have guys going very, very close to each other. You have Alshon Jeffrey, Jamison Crowder, Sterling Shepard, Golden Tate, Robbie Anderson, Preston Williams. So, Dad, you have to pick one of those. Who are you going with and why?
It's tough to pick.
That's why I said it's tough to pick. I don't ask easy questions. I'm not going to ask you would you rather have Christian McCaffrey or Ronald Jones. I'm going to ask you some tough questions.
The guy with the most upside out of all of them, I believe, is Jamison Crowder. But I'm going to take Preston Williams. Okay, last year he didn't get much recognition at all, right? But then when he did, what does he do? He goes down with a season-ending injury, right? There's some risk drafting a player coming off a major knee surgery. I mean, he's only 23 years old. Williams and Parker are still going to emerge as the main targets there. I think Conor McGregor is going to start out as the quarterback. Tua, and he's done very well. He's done very well there in Miami. So eventually Tua is going to take that job away sometime during the year. But Parker's price is much higher than Williams, making the better value Preston Williams.
Preston Williams. Nothing to hate on Preston Williams. As a Dolphins fan, I can't hate on Preston Williams.
Like I said, the poor guy he got hurt last year, so
we'll see how he recovers.
We'll see how he comes back.
Marcus, who are you going with out of these guys?
No, I'm 100% with Paul on Preston Williams right there. No, I do, especially because I do these mock drafts and stuff, and I still see him hanging around in the double-digit rounds, and I just wonder, do people forget? Did everybody forget what he did before he got hurt? And I know we spent the back half of last season talking about the Devontae Parker breakout because we had been waiting 5 years for this to happen, and it finally did.
I went through puberty for the whole time when that happened. Honestly, I was sitting there, I was talking like a little high pitched voice, and I came out of it, and Devontae Parker finally broke out. I'm a man now.
Seriously, there's a whole generation of fantasy managers who came of age waiting for Devontae Parker to do things, right? And so that was always what I kept saying to people last year. I'm like, hey, look, this is great, and we finally got what we wanted to happen, but let's keep in mind that this probably doesn't happen. At least it doesn't happen the same way if Preston Williams is healthy. So I think, like Paul said, with the value you get, the disparity in value between Parker, coming off the board, I've seen 5th, 6th round in some cases, versus waiting till the double-digit rounds to get Preston Williams. I'm smashing that button all day if he's still there.
Yeah, I like Preston Williams, but the answer for me is Jamison Crowder. You could probably get both, honestly. Just double tap it at the 11th, 12th round kind of thing. Just double tap it. But Jamison Crowder is the only wide receiver on the Jets that's still on the Jets from last year. He has that rapport with Sam Darnold. Steady producer with some spike weeks, despite being 95th in the league in target quality rating, which is Sam Darnold. You got to improve that. Maybe it was the mono. I don't know. We'll see. Maybe get back. Improved offensive line.
Well, they got to score. That's the problem.
Darnold has talent. Improved offensive line going into year 3. Still younger than Joe Burrow, I believe, is the crazy stat. Among wide receivers with at least 70% slot rate, Jamison Crowder was 3rd in targets inside the 5 and tied for 3rd in targets inside the 10. And per Mike Tagliere, slot targets are 10.8% more valuable than perimeter targets, so it's a bump to Crowder. And at that price, he's going to have a nice little steady volume floor and be a constant producer for your team with some spike weeks. I'm all for Jamison Crowder. people are going to be sleeping on him and Preston Williams. So
Adam Gase doesn't scare you?
Oh, well, see, that's the thing. Adam Gase, he sucks. He's the worst coach I think any franchise could possibly have. But this year, you're either going to get a good Adam Gase or he's gone the year after. So, I mean, hopefully he steps it up.
I mean, I just made a list of all the guys I was calling him the Adam Gase expats who like succeeded, like Devontae Parker was one, Kenyon Drake, Ryan Tannehill. I mean, there was like a handful of guys who like got free of Adam Gase and went berserk. And so like I've been lobbying for the Jets to like trade Le'Veon Bell because I want him to come back into our lives again this season, and it just won't happen. I think in New York.
Yeah, Adam Gase.
The Jets just don't score. I'm sick of watching their game because we're in New York. So, I mean, that's why I get the red zone so I don't have to watch the Jets. I'm sick of these scoring 10 points a game.
Is so bad. They hired him. My one friend's a Jets fan. He's like, "Oh, I'm hyped by Adam Gase." And like, you should not be hyped about Adam Gase when they sign this guy. You will. In a year from now, you're gonna come back to me and say, "Yo, you were right. Adam Gase is the worst thing on planet Earth." I don't know how he's still in the NFL. Teams just recycling these bad coaches. So just go to college. Do what Panthers did. Get a Matt Rule. Get a Joe Brady. Get something new in the NFL. So Adam Gase probably gone after this year. He's not good. Raheem Mostert last year went off down the stretch, and especially in the playoffs, people saw this guy is for real, undrafted free agent. He's currently going as a running back 25 in drafts, mid-fifth round according to FF Calculator. I like him as a player. Do I like him for fantasy? I kind of do. I'm kind of digging Raheem Mostert. It's fifth round's a little bit pricey. Weeks 13 to 17 last year, he had 3 top 12 weeks, and 2 of those weeks were top 5 weeks. So he gave you those boom weeks, and he seemed like he was running away with the job towards the end of the season. San Francisco, a good run blocking team. They ranked 6th in run blocking efficiency. Last season, Raheem Mostert was 4th in yards per touch, 6th in breakaway runs, and 17th in juke rate, which is evaded tackles per touch. The system is great, and their defense is pretty good, which leads them to be in positive game script. They had the 4th friendliest game script, which leads to more rushing attempts for Raheem Mostert. I'm buying the hype. They also added Brandon Ayuk this year in the draft, which should open things up. They got rid of Matt Breida, hopefully some more touches for him. The only person in consequence right now is Tevin Coleman. I do like JaMychal Hasty, but I don't know if he's going to happen in year 1. It's kind of like the same player as Raheem Mostert, just younger, so they're probably going to wait till after this year, let Mostert go, and JaMychal Hasty's going to come in. So keep an eye out for him in your deep dynasty waivers. JaMychal Hasty. It's going to be a hot hand situation. That's the thing that kind of scares me about this backfield. So do you think Raheem Mostert's going to run away with the job, Marcus, or do you think they're going to come up with a hot hand situation here?
I think so. I talked about Adam Rank, and he coined a phrase that I love a few years ago called Shanahanigans, which originally referred to Mike Shanahan and sort of how he used his running backs and how you can never completely predict that sort of thing. But Kyle Shanahan, I think, has inherited that as well, which that's maybe the one thing that makes me concerned. I'll tell you that I did a dynasty startup draft, and this was actually we did our startup draft right around the time of the actual NFL draft. And so as it was getting late, I drafted Mostert just to kind of like, hey, let's just take a shot and let's get Mostert. I know there's some other guys there. And I think I made the pick. And then like a couple hours later, I see that the Niners have traded Matt Breida to Miami. And I'm like, I feel like a genius. I felt a lot smarter then. Since then, his ADP has gone up significantly, but I've still taken him in the 5th round in a lot of drafts, and I feel pretty good about it because even if the Niners move other guys in, I mean, I think what we saw last year in the playoffs sort of suggested that they lost some faith in Tevin Coleman. I mean, he just vanished completely from the game plan in a couple of those playoff games, so that makes me feel better about it. But I draft Mostert hoping for the best, but understanding that, knowing how Shanahan uses his running backs, that kind of anything could happen. So it also kind of forces me to maybe take another guy or two behind him that I can fall back on in case things get a little bit sideways.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like a comfortable pick, but you're gonna feel good about it. Those big weeks, you just gotta make sure you start him those weeks, and that's gonna be the problem.
Look what he's done. He did most of his work in the playoffs and the run to the Super Bowl, right? And Breida's gone. So I think that ups the value of Coleman a little bit. With the 3 of them there, it was tough for Coleman. Now I think Coleman comes back into the picture, and Shanahan does like the committee backfield. So I think with Mostert, the only thing with me, he's not the receiving back out of the backfield, so he's kind of not a 3-down back, which is why I think they're going to stick with that committee and use Coleman on a lot of 3rd downs. So it's hard for me to predict what he's going to do with Coleman there.
Yeah, San Francisco last.
But I mean, this guy. So not to interrupt you, but he hit 20 miles per hour 4
Yeah.
times.
Have you ever hit 20 miles per hour?
I could do that.
Like outside of a car, like no.
20, on 4 rushes, 20
Most
miles
are
an
a quick
hour.
guy.
Now
He's-
that's a feat that only 7 players have reached.
Green Bay Packers fans
I mean,
do
who
not
those 7
like
are,
Raheem
I don't know,
Mostert.
but 20. You go out there now and try to run 20 miles an hour.
I can't.
He's
run per
also
hour.
he's also like a champion surfer, which I don't know what that has to do with anything. but I
Oh.
just think it's
Surfer? Really?
He's a surfer. Like he's been in like actual legitimate surfing competitions. I
Really?
don't know what that has
Whoa.
to do with anything football wise, but I
That
just
just
think it's
upped
a
his
fun
draft
fact.
stock. I gotta
That's
take
just
him
a
in the
fun
first round
fact
now.
about him now.
Wow, I did not know that.
I'm gonna take Raheem Mostert and then Henry Ruggs. I'll get someone that can dunk a basketball and win a dunk contest probably, and I'll get an all-pro surfer. I'm okay with that. That's the news to me. San Francisco also last year was second in run plays behind Baltimore. I mean, of course, you have Lamar Jackson running the ball, and Jimmy Garoppolo is not going to run the ball like Lamar Jackson. Obviously, it's not even close to that. So you can kind of argue that San Francisco was the most run-heavy team. And
Well,
then,
Jimmy G didn't. He didn't even have to throw much at the end either.
No,
he didn't have
because-
how many passes.
Well, I
did
wouldn't
he
want
have a
Jimmy G
day?
to throw that much either, honestly.
Yeah.
But and also another little thing that's kind of going under the radar. They traded for Trent Williams in the draft. They got Trent Williams from Washington, and that's going to help out the running game even more. So it's wheels up for Raheem Mostert. The 5th round price, I don't know if I'll be able to pay that. If also the 6th round, it's going to probably be an auto select for me. But with the hype now that we know he's an all-pro surfer as well, it's not going to be as easy to get him there. Hype's around Tom Brady. He's going to Tampa Bay. Can he win a Super Bowl? I don't know. There's some hype going on Carson Wentz, too. He's finally got some weapons. He's not going to be throwing to Greg Ward every time. He's got Jalen Rager. So that's going to be a big plus. But they're going back-to-back right now. Dad, who do you got, Carson Wentz or Tom Brady?
You know, I got to take the GOAT.
You got to take the GOAT, Tom Brady?
I'll give you a little on Wentz. Wentz has showed QB1 elite play on several occasions throughout his career, right? But he has yet to put together a full season with that kind of play, right? That's the problem. I mean, he got hurt. He's back. He did finish 2019 playing well without having any real weapons on offense, right? Now you got Jackson, Jeffrey.
You got to say Rager first. Rager,
Well, so
Jackson.
Jackson and Jeffrey are back.
Oh, you can
I
use-
like Jackson, but
Oh,
they
Zach
get hurt.
Ertz.
Well, forget about Zach Ertz.
Whoa.
Listen,
Dallas, go there.
they get hurt. That's the problem with these guys. The talent is unbelievable. If they could stay healthy, if Deshaun Jackson can stay healthy, I want him on every team I have. But I just can't. You just can't. So now they added 3 wideouts, right? Mm-hmm. 3 wideouts, so he's got more targets to throw to.
That all basically run sub 4.4s. That's kind of cool.
So it's exciting. He's got 3 new wide receivers there. We'll see what he can do. Because if he can't, Jalen Hurts is ready. Jalen Hurts is going to be ready to come in. But he should be better this year than he was last year. Now, Brady, we already talked about. He's the GOAT. What hasn't this guy done?
You don't get fantasy points for Super Bowl rings, though.
It doesn't matter. He's got 6, dude.
Yeah, but we're talking 2020.
Doesn't
We're not talking. You don't
matter.
get points for Super Bowl
Listen.
wins in the past.
We already talked about this. They put all the weapons around this guy to make him succeed. They're not going to fail. The refs are on his side. He's still going to be the Tom Brady he was in New England. Only now I think he's got more weapons than he had the last 2 years in New England, right? Having Evans and Godwin could bring Brady back to the back end probably of the QB1 territory easily. Right now he's going, probably wide receiver or quarterback 14, 15?
I don't know, man. I don't have this
I
stuff
think-
memorized.
So, I mean, he's capable of throwing 4,400 yards, 30 touchdown seasons. If you don't grab a tight end, have all the confidence in the world by taking Brady. I don't have a problem with him this year.
QB 9 and 10.
Really? He's up 9 to 10.
He's at 9.
So, I mean, coming to this offense, he's going to do well. I'm not worried about Brady.
Yeah. Marcus, who do you got between these two guys?
I think my brain is telling me that Tom Brady is the pick there, right? Just because, like Paul mentioned, one, he's got consistent weapons, right? Like Godwin, Evans, guys who I know they were hurt last year, but generally
Three tight ends, like you mentioned.
3 tight ends as well. I mean, there are guys there. If I were going to be bold and maybe swing for the fences, I think I would look at Wentz, just because at some point you just hope the stars align, right? Because like you mentioned, one year or a couple years, it's Wentz that gets hurt. Last year, I mean, literally by the end of the season, the Eagles were pretty much running the 3 of us out at wide receiver, right? Because everybody else got hurt. That's how bad it was. So like at some point you figure the stars have to align. And if they do, I mean, I think Carson Wentz has top 5 quarterback upside. It's just, am I bold enough to make that move? I mean, so far I haven't in any mock drafts. I haven't done that, and so I think the fantasy skeptic in me who always wants to see it first before making the move would probably lean toward Brady.
Yeah, I gotta agree with you. It's Tom Brady for me.
Hard. I mean, it's hard to go against Brady, right? It's hard. I mean,
I like Wentz. Wentz did really good down the stretch with Greg Ward, and who the heck knows what else at wide receiver. Now he gets some weapons. I think Wentz is underrated as well. Tom Brady, though, joining Bruce Arians, we mentioned Chris Godwin and Mike Evans earlier, both studs. And then you get Gronk back. That's a big thing. Whenever Gronk, even if he's 75% of what Gronk was, he's still going to be a top 10 tight end in fantasy, and that's good. You know, you got that connection, that rapport in the red zone. Cameron Brate, O.J. Howard. They drafted Tristan Wirfs. That's an upgrade for the offensive line. Keyshawn Vaughn's better pass blocker than Ronald Jones, and I think he can kind of catch passes out of the backfield. But even if he can't,
I think Ronald Jones is going to be the guy there in the beginning. I don't think
I think Jones will be the starter at the beginning of the year. You know, and Vaughn. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if Vaughn ends up taking that job later. But I think it'll be Jones to start.
A scenario where Tom Brady drops back, gets sacked, looks at Bruce Arians, says, "Get this guy out of here. You can't pass protect for shit." And get in here, Keyshawn Vaughn. He's gonna come in. He's gonna pass protect better than Ronald Jones. It's gonna matter for him.
I will say for fantasy, like Tom Brady is the new what I call the new patron saint of the church of wait on a quarterback for like people who like to wait, because for years, I mean, it was always guys like Matthew Stafford, Phillip Rivers, I think Matt Ryan to an extent. These guys where if you want to wait on a quarterback, is you don't want to draft a guy until like the 10th or 11th round. Like they'll be there and they'll give you consistent production. And I think that's what Brady's going to be this year. Like I don't think he'll have a lot of blow up games. You're not going to get a ton of 300-yard, 3 or 4 touchdown games. But you'll just kind of get a lot of steady consistency where every week, you can count on Brady for 18 to 20 points. That's not necessarily, video game type numbers, but they're also not going to kill you every week. I think that's who Tom Brady is going to be this year in Tampa.
But even if you're waiting on a quarterback, that 18 to 20 points is pretty good
great.
Numbers.
No, absolutely. No doubt.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then last season, people knock Tampa Bay's offensive line. They're like, oh, it's not that good. But Brady last season was 18th in protection rate. Winston was 20th, but that was without Tristan Wirfs. Tristan Wirfs' first-round pick. You got to expect it to be hopefully top 15 if they all improve with hopefully some run block with Ronald Jones or Keyshawn Vaughn. Somehow, I don't know how I saw this stat. I had to double take and refresh my browser to make sure it wasn't fake. Tom Brady was top 10 in red zone carries last year. I mean,
what?
Carries?
Top 10 in red zone carries among quarterbacks last year. I was like, wait a minute, what? Tom Brady, the dude who runs like a 7.8 40.
You sure about that?
I'm sure about it because he hadn't heard any weapons to throw to. Now he's probably not going to be top 10 in red zone carries.
I don't remember him running the ball.
I think it was all the QB sneaks and he just failed.
That does explain a lot about Sony Michel's season, though.
Sony Michel.
A little story about Sony Michel. 2 years ago, I took him in the redraft early.
Mm-hmm.
In the first game, he scored 3 touchdowns.
No, that was 2 years. That was Mike Gillislee. You get the Patriots. That was Mike Gillislee.
Never mind. Forget I even said it.
You know what? Anyway. I get it. They're all kind of interchangeable. Like a lot of these guys are sort of interchangeable.
You're right. It was him. He scored 3 touchdowns in the first game. Then nothing.
And that was it. And then
nothing the rest of the season.
Yeah, Mike Gillislee, disappointing. You should have sold high when you could. I was going to buy him from you too. Thank goodness I did not. Thank you for being stubborn. Now, he's got wide receivers you can trust. Last season, Tom Brady was still number 1 in red zone attempts last year with over 100 red zone attempts. So 9th in deep ball completion percentage. People who knock his deep ball completion, he was top 10 in the league, and he was top 15 in attempts last year. He still got it. 7.6 yards per attempt with Tom Brady. That's 10th in the league. It's wheels up for me. I think he has some upside now with the Yak Monster and Chris Godwin. Mike Evans is better than, well, I'm not going to say, well, right now he's better than N'Keal Harry, but I'm really high on the N'Keal Harry hype train. It's happening. Probably not this year, but in 2 years, don't be surprised when N'Keal Harry's a top 12 wide receiver.
He's going to be the number 1 there. There's no doubt. I mean, it's a matter of time.
Yeah, for me, though, it's Tom Brady over Carson Wentz. Marcus, before we get you out of here, I'm going to need a bold prediction. I'm thinking bold. You got to go a little bit bolder than bold. I need a bold prediction for fantasy this year. So what are you going to give us?
Ooh, let's see. My bold prediction for fantasy football this year, let's see. I'm going to say that Jonnu Smith is going to end up being a tight end 1 somewhere.
Yeah! I like it.
And that's the show. Wow.
I like it. Tell us
That's
why,
my bold
Marcus.
prediction. Well, I mean, look, obviously A.J. Brown was fantastic last year in Tennessee. But look, this Titans offense can't survive on A.J. Brown alone. Derrick Henry was fantastic, but we saw that, look, they took off when Ryan Tannehill took over as the starting quarterback. I don't expect Tannehill to be as crazy efficient as he was last season. He's going to have to spread the football around. I feel like the Corey Davis experiment has come to an end, and there's just really nobody else there. Now Jonnu Smith steps into the void left by Delaney Walker in that offense, and I could really see a situation where when things are starting to break down, Tannehill looks his direction. And look, let's also keep in mind, like being a top 10 tight end because of the position lately, it hasn't been, I won't say incredibly difficult. I mean, look, Jason Witten was the tight end 11, and that dude just catches the ball and falls down. Like, that's literally all he did. And he was the tight end 11 last year. So, I think though it's sort of bold because nobody's really thinking about Jonnu Smith. I think only us degenerates are really talking about Jonnu Smith, and I think the general population hasn't really paid attention to him. But I think he's going to surprise a lot of people with his production this year.
We're doing a startup dynasty draft right now. We're in like the 23rd round, and we waited on a tight end, and our first tight end off the board was Jonnu, and I don't know what round it was. What round was it? Do you know?
12.
It was late. It was way late.
Round 12, tight end premium league.
It was tight end premium too. So we ended up
got him
waiting.
as tight end 16.
Yeah.
Oh wow! All right.
Yeah.
So I like that.
Jonnu Smith.
I hope you're right on with that ball.
he is going to be right on. Last season, Jonnu Smith was third in missed tackles forced among tight ends behind Kittle and Kelsey. He had 14. This guy, 94th percentile burst score, 82nd percentile catch radius, 83rd percentile speed score. He's going into his third year. Tight ends take a while to learn. That's a perfect pick. Mm-hmm. And last season, he was catching screen passes. And no tight end you're going to see is catching screen passes. Just YouTube, look it up right now. Jonnu Smith screen pass takes to the house. He even got some carries out of the backfield. No tight end is getting carries out of the backfield. That's a perfect bold take. And I love it. I'm on the Jonnu Smith. We
love
it
too because we got him.
If I'm going late round tight end, if I'm going late round tight end, I'm going Jonnu Smith this year over a guy like Hayden Hurst because he's cheaper.
I like
Hayden Hurst going top 12. Jonnu Smith's going like 15th. But you're just copy pasting Austin Hooper's stats. I'll put a prediction right now. I think Jonnu Smith outscores Hayden Hurst this year. You want to put that on the table?
Ooh, I like Hayden Hurst a lot this year. I'll say the tight ends I love this year. I love Hayden Hurst. I like Jonnu. I like Mike Gesicki.
Gesicki, baby.
Yeah, there's a lot of tight ends hanging around at the bottom half of drafts that I really like this year.
I like Hayden Hurst too. I'm just saying
that bet is on the table. Right. It's on the table right now. I am taking Hayden Hurst over Jonnu Smith.
I mean, Hayden Hurst I like, but you can't expect him to have the same kind of production as Austin Hooper. Like, what if Austin Hooper's good?
I don't care.
People are kind of saying like, oh, Hayden Hurst could be this year's Mark Andrews. Well, guess what?
I think Hayden Hurst is good too. I thought he was good coming out of college. He just the Ravens hoard tight ends like toilet paper, man. Like that was the problem. So he just couldn't get on the field. So now he's got a chance to get on the field and get snapped.
Oh yeah, now he's going on Atlanta, who's going to be pass heavy, dude. You lost that bet.
I like both guys.
Put a star. Listen, I love both of the guys, but
future shows I'm gonna have some.
Atlanta's going to be so pass heavy.
No, I'm gonna have.
He's getting his shares.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
I'll take them both. How's that? But we just put that on the table. Give us something to jaw about later on.
Marcus, if people don't know and are not following you on Twitter or don't even know what you do, say they're listening, you're like, who's this Marcus guy? I mean, I don't know how you can be listening and be like, who's this Marcus guy? But if for some reason they live underneath a rock, or I don't know, like Patrick Starr, where can they find you on Twitter, and what do you do in this industry?
Yeah, excuse me. You can find me on Twitter at Marcus G. It's MarCasG, spelled a little differently. If you don't know, I work for this little mom and pop organization called the National Football League. So we do a podcast, comes out a couple times a week, the NFL Fantasy Football Podcast. You can find that, all the usual suspects, Apple, Spotify, all those places you can find it there. So we do the podcast. You can find us. We'll do stuff on YouTube, social media, all those places. So I am probably in more places than the law allows. But come hang out with us, do stuff with us. It's fun.
Awesome.
Yeah, go check that out. Subscribe to that podcast as well. Subscribe to this podcast. You made it this far and listening and enjoy it. We'll be back. This episode's going to be airing out Monday. So if you guys are liking what you hear, subscribe, and we'll see you guys next time.
See ya.
And broadcast.